Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the world champion Terran in the blue, the Frenchman from Team Liquid. It's Clem, facing off and standing in his way. In the red, D-Mawa, Showtime, The Wall. A best-of-3 Terran versus Protoss showdown with the unstoppable force of Clem facing the immovable object of Showtime. I'll only try to move you to do one thing before we get started, which is moving to smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jim. 1,593 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As a bunker on the way for Clem, a bit of a macro build to start things off. He's not up against max pack, so I feel like he's playing to Showtime's more passive, though sometimes aggressive style, with just a 1-Rax expand. Clem is someone who really likes to be right on the edge of your base, up in your grill, knocking on the door and wondering why you're not answering. I don't care if it's 3 a.m., it's gamer time. But I digress. And Showtime, going for the Stalker Sentry Bert and Ernie start. Slaps that energy recharge in the Sentry, sends out a hallucinated Phoenix, and it's better than map hacks. Well, it's not better than map hacks, but it does make the Terrans very uncomfortable, which has a lot of value in and of itself. But with energy recharge, able to get a hallucinated Phoenix. I personally prefer putting the Oracle out there just to stress players out, but I think Clem realizes you literally cannot have an Oracle at 3 minutes. But the Phoenix will get a full scout. There's no stopping it. I guess maybe if you had the Marines exactly in position along the trajectory of the Phoenix, maybe, but then they'd know you have enough Marines in the trajectory of the Phoenix, which is plenty of information in and of itself. So the hallucination will get a scout of the 1-1-1. Clem already putting together the bulwark in order to potentially defend against Blink Stalkers, and Blink Stalkers are the choice indeed. Meanwhile, Hellion hanging out, waiting for an opportunity to dart in. Will it combine? A classic tactic. Marines, now the Phoenix. You ever had your manager looking at you like this? Where you going? You gonna get some damage done with that drop? Okay, how about some emotional damage? All right, you're not getting paid extra for that. The hazard pay is real here, but the Stalkers are not in position. Showtime already moving the Stalkers out, looking for an opportunity to pick this off. Clem obviously aware that this is what Showtime's up to, but he almost walks right into the Stalkers anyways, as the Hellion not quite given the vision. Forced to boost away, and this drop is pretty much over before it even started. A great defense from Showtime, though that almost comes as second nature to him, it seems. The zone defense so far has been great. Blink still 10 seconds out as Clem looking for maybe a more roundabout path to get the damage done, but Showtime has effectively zoned him out. There's just the Widowmine drop. Blink is done. He actually spots the medevac, the Blink, and knocks it out of the sky. Wow. Big win for Showtime to start things off against the world champion. And the Stalkers are hunting the Marines on the way back home. He's not even going to get away with it. Maybe picks off one more. Tank siege is up. And he blunks forward. Oh, no. Those Stalkers get away with critical damage. And, well, they will survive for now. You know what they say. That which doesn't kill you leaves you permanently damaged, desperately asking the SCVs to repair you, and the SCVs not understanding a word you're saying because you don't have mouths. That's my new motivational poster. Pin-up poster. Check out my OnlyFans. Liberator came in. How many kills? 0 kills. That's why we didn't hear about it. Stalker already zoned it out. Showtime with plenty back at home, and the Stalkers thinking about jumping up into the main, but not wanting to risk it. There actually wasn't a siege tank here. Showtime darts back around, trying to intercept. He doesn't have vision. Blunks forward, takes out a siege tank, walking directly. Oh, no. Oh. Well, at least the Liberator came back on the F2 hotkey there, but Showtime showing why sometimes it's time to show a more defensive posture. He tries to blunk in, but he blonked it. ran right up against the Marines. That first tank pickoff was good, but he tried to go for more, and he dug far too deep, too greedily, and it cost him almost everything. The Stalkers in the Prism, and the Prism itself means that Clem now potentially opening up an opportunity to counterattack with the triple threat. Stim, combat shield +1 on the way. Robotics Bay behind. Showtime did get a third Nexus. He's going to have plenty of production. But that window to potentially do damage is something that he blunked right into and bounced off like a seagull on a pane of glass. Thought he saw a chicken nugget or something in there. But no! It was a bunch of Marines and Marauders! Now, Stalkers. 2, 3, 4 of them. 3 more picked off. The Spylon is taken out, and it's already a precarious position for a Protoss player. Possibly, well, 2 forges on the way. He has charge done. That's the saving grace right here, if there was to be one. Charge against a medium-sized Bioforce is more than enough to complicate things. And that's why Clem is backing off and waiting until he has a critical mass of bio. Because those charge lots, even if you have great micro, literally the best, like Clem, the charge lots can kind of put things sideways and turn it on its head. Clem's army is just better. His control is just better. At 200 supply against Colossi, Stalkers, and Gateway units in general, Clem will win that fight 9 times out of 10. And the other 1 out of 10 will just say the sun was in his eyes. Even though we already established he rarely sees it, but I digress. I know, I'm one to talk, but... Colossi on the way, and Showtime doing a great job of zone defense yet again. The minefield is set up, +1 infantry weapons is done. Showtime so far has managed to keep Clem away from his bases at every single turn. He stopped the early medevac, he shut down the Liberator, the attack to the north was discouraged, the attack to the south has been pushed away. So far, Showtime has kept up in supply, and Clem is kind of forced back towards his third. 69 probes at the moment for Showtime, a nice baseline economy. He's got 1-1 on the way. Blinks out of a Widowmine shot. And enough Stalkers to easily one-shot Vikings, Medevacs, technically Marines, Marauders as well, but not as dramatic. A Shrine to Dark is on the way. Worthy of every... should have at least 1 in every home. And main base. Anything to drag Clem's attention away. Okay, APM is not necessarily actions, but attention per minute, especially in this matchup, where both armies can be so incredibly devastating to one another. Showtime, though, force field tries to zone out, but I don't think he has a glimpse. He didn't know about the siege tanks behind. And if there are no siege tanks, maybe a few force fields, you slice it up, and you can carve away a chunk of the Terran army. But the siege tanks backstopping things makes it a little bit too difficult. He's going to go through the rocks as well, a much less combative opponent. Warp Prism speed's on the way, and we're going to a full-on macro game. Disruptors in production, 2 more gateways. Factory! A scouting factory. That tells you where Clem's going with this. To the skies and boots on the ground. But nothing in between. Infantry armor level 1 is completing. Does he have an armory? Yes. So Clem not going to be stalling out at 1-1 like sometimes you see with Terran timing attacks. But instead we'll have access to all the upgrades. He's building 4 Vikings at a time. 3 Ghosts as well. DT Blink is on the way for Showtime. The tech tree is expanding like a bamboo shoot in a shrubbery right now. We're going to have access to almost everything. The only thing Showtime is missing is a Stargate and maybe a Fleet Beacon. Whereas Clem looking for that fusion core for similar things. But EMP actually dodges it. I think he just EMP'd his own orbital as well, which is possible. The DT is scattered throughout, but the Warp Prism speeds away. 1 HP and lost motivation, just assuming it was dead, but can't believe it isn't. Meanwhile, the Vikings over the top. Wow, that is a Scandinavia of Vikings right now. And the gold base is a precarious working environment, but is definitely worth it for Clem if he has that level of air control. 4 more gates on the way. It's going to be 16 in total. And there's the Stargate out of Showtime. This has been his main sticking point many times before. Not going for the late game tech, but instead trying to bash through on the ground. But instead, he's working his way up that tech tree. The Vikings, though, almost uncontested. 2 volleys topple a Colossus with ease. It's getting more and more difficult for the ground army to make any progress whatsoever, especially now that Clem is adding on a fusion core, though I have my suspicions on whether that's for battle cruisers or for Caduceus reactor and advanced ballistics. The cannon count is growing, and Showtime is putting together one of the scariest and most comprehensive Protoss armies. Of course, Clem already has that dangerous Terran one as well. He's got 26 Marauders as the weaker units are slowly but surely getting chipped away, aka the Marines. Vikings, Liberators, more Starports. Starport number 3 in production. And Showtime has completed his Stargate. We'll see how far he's willing to take that. He's got 76 probes. I think very intentionally not adding any more. You want to have enough army supply to actually fight the army on the field. Otherwise, you're just going to get run over. That vision, though. Showtime knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. So right at the... He's using DTs as observers. Which, well, awkward. Billy, would you land over there? DT gets taken out. Clem figures it out quickly. There are a dozen Vikings on the field. Another DT coming in. Another scan as well. The sensor towers are covering the majority of the field. More command centers to wall out. How many orbitals? Only 4 right now. But the Disruptor at a flanking position. The Stalkers blink to intercept. So far, so good. Showtime realizes that Warp Prism actually managed to live through all of it. Force Field locks in some of the ghosts with him, but the Vikings over the top. Clem knocks out yet another Colossus. 5 Liberators at a time. 2 Colossi and 2 Zealots are currently being produced. Caduceus Reactor Clem is going for the full Sky Terran army. Ghosts, Vikings, and Liberators, with enough Marauders and Medevacs to discourage anything else. Meanwhile, Showtime has yet to make the switch. He only has 200 gas in the bank, but finally, a fleet beacon is lit as he calls to the Sky Toss for aid. The game has almost nothing lost so far. It hasn't been a no-rush situation. Obviously, there are some units lost. And Jimmy, how long was that up? We're gonna edit that out. I don't want to hear about it. All right, I don't want to hear. Like and subscribe so I can get some real help. And interpret that however you'd like. Planetary Fortress Wall out of Clem. Down to the south side. 3 command centers on the way. And oh my, it's a hard wall. Wow. The Zealots try to chew through, but it's just too tough of a nut to crack. And it doesn't even have building armor yet. He's going to bring the rest of the army in to deal with it. Tempests are in production. The Planetary will finally falter. But before it broke, so many Zealots were taken out. The Venn diagram of freedom with the Liberators. Just liberating everything on the ground. +2 ship weapons about to complete. And I talk about it every time because it's such a huge deal. But that +2 ship weapons upgrade allows you to 2-shot Stalkers instead of 3. And Liberators don't fire very quickly. That means 1 shot after an EMP. I'm not sure if you have like +3 shields and armor, if that's enough to negate it. But part of the reason you get weapon upgrades instead of armor as a priority most of the time is because they scale. Like if an attack does 50 damage, it probably gets +5 from a weapons upgrade. In the case of Liberators, it actually does, I believe. Whereas +1 armor and shields only subtracts 1. So that is why the weapon upgrades are such a high priority, especially for units like Liberators and Tempests. And speaking of, +2 ship weapons completed, +1 air, Protoss air weapons on the way. Templar Archives is also in production. A psionic storm may be required to wash away the sheer amount of Liberators and Vikings. An Oracle in production. He scans the main Templar Archive spotted right next to the Dark Templar Shrine, which, you know, they don't get along, but they work together. Lore accurate. Meanwhile, though, the army supply for Clem up to 135, and the ground army for Showtime is looking incredibly vulnerable. The Colossi pushed up against the Nexus and will be slammed on it. Down to one Colossus, the Bio Ball just tearing through everything underneath. The Tempest. The Tempest count. I don't know if Clem has spotted the tank. He'd be building more Vikings if he did. All right, the moment he spots the Tempest, scans. Well, he's maxed out, so he can't build more Vikings, but it's going to be Vikings from this point forward. Vikings are clearly the answer. He's actually going to pick up Storm is on the way. More Colossi. Showtime not willing to give up the splash damage on the ground. In fact, he's increasing it. Both sides maxed out with money in the bank, but very importantly, Showtime doesn't have much Vespene gas at all. He's built mass. Right now, there are 10 cannons, a dozen turrets on the map. The Tempest tectonic destabilizers for that bonus to building damage may vary. Yep, I agree. Thank you. Storm and tectonic destabilizers simultaneously. The Weatherman is coming in one way or another. DT is knocked out. The Liberators looking to isolate this base, but the Tempest and the ground army are able to take out another command center in the top left as we rotate things around. Instead of slicing it diagonally, it might be sliced horizontally. Here. I don't... Yes? Is that right? Doesn't really matter. The end result is -1 base for each side, and Showtime is now expanding down the center. Very important to note that Showtime didn't touch the gold base until this moment. It's going to be hard to hold on to if he's unable to win a fight. But so far, Clem hasn't really been able to contest the Tempest army. Templar and Tempest are anything but temporary. But the EMP Storm wards away the Vikings, a great historical counter as well. And the Zealots on the ground. EMP, an existential threat. But with the Storms, as long as the Templar and the Tempest are in two different, slightly different sort of places, it's going to be very hard for the Ghosts to reliably land the amount of EMP they need. Destabilizers about to complete. Wow, that's a long upgrade. Ghost Cloak in production, +3 ship weapons. Clem's fleet of 9 Vikings, 12 Liberators. He has 22 Marauders underneath. In fact, Clem unleashing more scans than a Costco checkout aisle right now. Just scanning the whole map. It's map hex with extra APM. But Showtime, keeping up with them. And honestly, we see this kind of even money scenario so little. A lot of the time when we have these unit compositions, there is a clear leader, a clear advantage for either player, and the other one's kind of just hoping they make a mistake. It's very rare we actually see a relatively even scenario with these sort of compositions. You might be like, well, Clem has 5,500 more gas in the bank. So yeah, that is something. But Showtime has 18 gateways to warp in Zealots. He's built the... Well, yeah, I would definitely give advantage to Clem. But that doesn't make it easy to engage this sort of army. Disruptor shot. Still an existential threat to the Ghosts. Mass cannons are on the way. A full... You know, cannons, they only cost minerals and they don't cost supply. The Bronze League heroes were right. Cannons all along. Showtime... The wall is bringing the defense to you. EMP is on the Zealots, but the rest of the army looking to collapse. And how many cannons? The CPM right now. Only 17 cannons. Only 17 cannons. What? Are those cloaked ghosts? Oh, he had an observer nearby. The ghosts dying as dramatically as possible. Huh. Okay, so... the Warp Prism with 1 HP still. Uh-huh. Well... Showtime's army is amazing, but he has no gas. Whereas Clem, the only better army would probably involve battle cruisers, which are only arguably better. Especially when your opponent already has Tempest. The real value of the battle cruisers is the tactical jump. The Vikings are closing in. The Storms are good. Fadeaway shot with the Ruptors. A whole tsunami of splash damage. He has all three flavors. The Triforce of Protoss. Storm, Disruptors, and Colossi. So the floor is almost entirely lava, but somehow Clem is able to navigate it. The Vikings, badly bruised, doesn't actually repair many of them. There's like a Marauder and a Marine stasis there. I didn't even realize. Wow, the Storm's starting to really soften up the Vikings. And the Tempest, Cloak Ghost, looking for the EMPs. Huge EMP! Absolutely massive. The effective damage there. I think that EMP itself, I don't know if we count EMP as damage, but wipes out the shields of most of the army and a whole bunch of the energy. But he's not able to capitalize because Showtime is holding behind his cannons on the front line. And the very important point is it is the front line. He's not next to his Nexus, which feels like a children's rhyme at this point, but there are no children here. All right, we left that a long time ago. Yes, just because you've been playing StarCraft since you were a child, that doesn't really narrow it down. Okay, when you're closer to cashing in on your 401k, well, maybe not anymore, but that Warp Prism finally dies 15 minutes later. But the Bio Army is moving across on the right flank. And does Showtime have enough army supply to partition and defend against it? The Tempest still shelling. Revelation is a huge part of this. How many Oracles still in the army? Just the one, but that one Oracle has a lot of value. Revelation allows the Tempest to be able to target from their maximum range, which is far longer than anything that Terran has to offer. This might be a scenario, dare I say, for Thors. Thor's not great against Zealots, but actually one of the most reliable units against both Colossi and Tempest. I don't know, maybe I'm the Bronze League hero, but I'd love to see it. That'd be great clickbait, but more cannons on the way. Disruptor shot. Oh, frees up a lot of supply with that one. I still don't know why there's that little set of rocks back there at the third base, not the natural. I don't know. Maybe to stop proxy wrecks? Maybe. Oh, yeah. Wow, I've seen that multiple times. I'm thinking now it's to stop proxy wrecks because you almost impossible to kill the SCV there. Well, oh, Showtime looking the other way. The Vikings withering volleys of fire, knocking down multiple Tempests, doing a whole lot of damage to the rest, and the Colossi are vulnerable as well. The Marauders on the ground, the long warping of Stalkers, and a few of them coming out. The Tempest still holding, and Showtime manages to keep his supply in a relatively stable state. And he's also attacking in the bottom right corner. Another Colossus coming forward. The DTs, the ground army. Showtime holds the top left corner, and he knocks out the bottom right. But look at the bank. Showtime cannot put anything more on the field. At least he doesn't have the money banked up for it. Clem, on the other hand, is down on supply, but he has enough money in order to rebuild his army at least one more time. But Showtime just denied some of the mining bases. I don't know. Well, the income going back and forth, pretty much with the drop of the mules. The Liberator zoning the rest of this out. Disruptor shot. Yeah. You tell him. It's always very dangerous for both sides, but especially for Protoss, to have your army split up like this. Because with a few ghosts and a bunch of bio, you can easily roll over an unprepared Protoss army. Of course, the reverse is true, but it definitely seems like the Terran army is better in small to medium groups than the Protoss one. You don't really call it the Terran death ball, especially not with Marauders, but... Oh, Ghost feedback on a full energy Ghost just pops him from the inside out. But Showtime is holding. There is no Terran unit that you can really sink gas into. I guess besides a Raven, which wouldn't make very much sense here, unless Gumiho was playing, and then he just interference matrix the whole army and the Templar somehow. That is something you could do. Revelation, yep, those are Vikings. But the Templar are doing a great job with the cannons to zone out small groups of units. Showtime, DT blank forward. And Disruptor popped. Another Nexus will go down. But at the same time, Showtime... Oh, God, every time. Ah! Showtime working on the 9 o'clock base, but the 3 o'clock is taken down. And the wheel turns. The wheel of time. Showtime. Multiple command centers just sitting around. There are 9 orbital commands. Where are the reinforcements for Clem? There's no units anywhere nearby. There's no planetary. Loses a dozen SCVs. The storms are withering. The watchtower will be held by the Marauders, but the Vikings have to wade through the storm. Showtime pinned up against the ends of the earth, but an apocalyptic storm rains down. A biblical moment for Showtime, and the flood of storm is enough to drive Clem back for now. And he's down under 1,000 minerals in the bank. Showtime has held, and Clem is down to just a few patches of mining. He's losing his orbitals, and his supply, his army supply, is still huge. Because he lost so many SCVs, he hasn't bothered to replace them. When you have 7 orbital commands, you're not really obligated to. But I think, really, the cannons are what keep Clem from splitting off just a few units to snipe Templar, to snipe Tempest. Not a huge number of cannons, not like a wall of cannons, but a defense in depth. This has been an incredible game out of Showtime. Some of the most comprehensive Protoss I have ever seen, using the majority of the Protoss roster. Every bit of the tech tree. From the Twilight to the Robo to the Stargate. And now Showtime is knocking on the door in Clem. I don't know if he has an answer. A base trade out of desperation, but there are Templar with energy back at home. The ghosts have been mitigated. The base is annihilated. The Marines and Marauders obliterated. And at this point, now we'll have to debate. Ugh, so close. Fill in the blanks, but 196 to 130 supply, and Clem has nothing left in the bank. 3,300 gas. Yeah, maybe if you could sell that off at the market, but SCVs out on the field finally deciding maybe I should repair these things instead of having to rebuild them. It's a little late for that, as another orbital will go down. The Terran army in the middle of the map. And oh, he's getting sandwiched here. A Clem sandwich! The Protoss army, the Archons, he exhausts all his EMPs, and the storms rain down. Oh, we had one more. But there's still plenty of Templar with storm. Wow, this army is still so dangerous. Clem still has the army supply to make a game of it. Though his income is 0. That's not a rounding error. 0. Not like Showtime has a lot going on either. He's down to 43 probes, like half of which aren't mining. Some of which are mining from another zip code, but he has a Templar and a Stalker, I think, stuck in between the cannons, which he could blink one, and I don't think the other is actually stuck. It's just being dumb. EMP, but the Terran army is still a threat until its literal dying breath, which is usually very dramatic. Another Templar. He's gliding in one by one by one. And this is exactly the kind of strategy... This is the kind of strategy that the cannons prevented for Showtime. The trickle down of just one unit after another. The storms! Oh my. And Clem is down 100 supply. Well played! Wow! I don't know if I've ever seen that one out of... Like, Clem, I've seen him rage quit. I've seen him send out a aggressive G, like a single G. But well played, typed out. I don't think that was incredible. That was... What happened? Showtime is back. I mean, he never left, but... Wow. Winter, you can't just title everything the best game you've ever seen. I don't know if that was the best, but that was... It was a lot. That was Showtime's unique blend of Protoss, his proprietary defensive blend. Especially now that it seems like Stats has effectively retired. And Clem can't crack it. Now, that map, the defensive 3-base map. You saw from the very start he was able to zone Clem out of each side. And he did a great job of it because Clem is so dangerous at all points of the game. But he held. And then, well, can he continue to do so against the world champion here on Ultralove? Impressed is an understatement. When you're getting a compliment from Clem, I mean, a well-known salty Terran player. You know, I want to contrast this with Clem not GGing against Hero. I mean, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt sometimes, but I feel like they were rage quits. It's happened several times. Hero does something that would make a toddler think twice and somehow wins the game. And the fact that he just typed it out, like the whole Clem leaving the game meta just took another twist here. The drama continues as the engineering bay is blocking the natural. He's just going to take the third. A bold move, Con. Let's see if it works out for him. This is exactly, well, the intent of the NG Bay block is to create this sort of odd scenario, just like Protoss love to do against Zerg. Now, some players will pull probe, some players will build a zealot, some players will just take a third. I am not surprised that Showtime is one of those players who's like, I'm just going to do my build with a slight adjustment instead of turning it into some sort of aggressive timing. A slight adjustment with a... But I'll take the slight adjustment with the aggressive timing. Alright? I'd like both. You can't have... Apparently, I can. I love this. He just takes the third. So Clem's like, well, I'm going to do the Hellions, which are super obvious, though both players probably know Clem is angling towards that. And then he turns it around with the proxy gate. So, I don't know if it's a good idea, but I think it's a great one. We're gonna find out. It all comes down to the execution. Second barracks on the way. He's just sitting back. Does he suspect something? No, he's just waiting for 4 Hellions, but 4 Hellions beat 2 Adepts, right? Yes, even if they micro, right? I am not confident in this. Yes. Okay, definitely. Yeah, it's not even close. What am I saying? The Adepts phase out of existence. And the Hellions coming across the map, but Showtime warps it on the other side, sandbagging the Adepts. He has probes and a shield battery, but now here come the Stalkers in the natural. Wow, what? The Cyclone comes out. What a topsy-turvy start. Neither player going to be taking critical damage. Well, if anyone was, it's going to be Clem, actually. As the Stalkers continue to warp in, the Hellions looking for more opportunities. But now there's 4 Stalkers, and by this point, I think it should be pretty quick. Great micro from Showtime to pull back exactly as the Cyclone knocked on. Gonna get an SCV extra for his troubles. Pulls back the Star. So smooth, so suave. But at the same time, the Hellions in the main. Shut down. D-Mawa holds again. Showtime is playing. And okay, things are escalating as a wave of Adepts comes in. This is, and the Adepts knocks out one of the Stalkers. And the Hellion comes back around, gonna eat some hits. Cyclone, but he still has some vision. More Stalkers warped in. Here we go again. It continues. Looking for the back line. Try to take down the Cyclone. Things starting to suffer from some diminishing returns. The Cyclone. Gotta be careful not to drive over a pebble or a Lego or something. But now the siege tank is out. And Showtime runs the risk of yet again diving too deep with his Stalkers. Okay. I need to calm down. But he used the Adept Shade to scout if he was about to walk into a siege tank. That was beautifully done. He covered. He doesn't have a sentry for hallucination. His robo isn't even done for observers. But he still finds a way to get the vision. And the Adept Shade isn't much, but it's enough. And that's huge. Because if he walks up that ramp into the tanks, he's going to lose 3-4 Stalkers. And not too long after, it's not unlikely the game. Because the tank push will be so devastating that it was already dicey enough in the last game when he already had something of an advantage. So, and this map is a lot easier to execute that tank push quickly and efficiently than it is on Amygdala, where you have to go around you have to take it around the cape in order to get there on time. I don't know, this large, round, your mother, other things of that variety. Third barracks. And Clem, sitting back. Again, Showtime has taken the initiative, which is just an impressive feat against Clem in general. Charge and +1 on the way. Stim is completed, so Clem willing to move out and risk it. He's got 2 medevacs on the way. Will he pull any of the boys? He's got a 3rd command center on the way. That doesn't preclude it. Stalker's gonna pick off a couple Marines. Blink away. He has to know about the, scouting for it. There's no way those Stalkers just walked across before. Took the express route. Hallucinated Phoenix into the main, takes a look at the production. And just the moment he loses vision at the front with the Stalkers, he gets it with the... It's so intuitive. This isn't anything complicated that Showtime is doing. Not to be reductionist, but it's incredibly well done. And Clem is on the back foot. Stalkers forced to blink away. Tanks trundling forward on the bridge. And now here's that dangerous timing. Combat shield and +1 about to complete. Robo Bay is a long way off. Oh, huge force fields. Locks him in. Clem slurps him up, but that's so much of the army. He's just going to continue forward. Down goes 2 tanks. The 3rd one, there's an Immortal mixed in. And Showtime backs off before the force fields can dissipate. Showtime locks in the Marines, forces Clem to extract them, and it costs him 3 siege tanks. Another incredible play. Snipes off a Cyclone, icing on the cake. The Bio Army is still dangerous. A Colossus is in production. If he's able to finish that Colossus, things get a lot easier. But the Bio Army is still very dangerous. All force field potential. Throws one out there. The threat is there. He doesn't want to commit to it. I love how he's holding on to it as well. Both players know force field is a threat and are dancing around it. If Showtime commits, there's a chance he misses, and then it can be used against the charge lot. Clem, still with plenty of momentum. He has that third base up. He's equal on workers. Never a good sign for the Protoss. Knocks out an observer. He was making it quite conspicuous. Gonna open up these rocks. Could take down the other set and create another choke point here. But the Vikings are already overhead, preempting the Colossus. The Zealot eats a single mine hit. Blunks forward to deal with it. Armory's on the way for Clem. But already +2 ground weapons in production for Showtime. So, in a very good spot with his upgrades. Knocks out one Viking. Force fields lock in some of the bio. Trying to target down more Vikings. Colossus provides high ground vision. Almost knocks out the Vikings in general. He still has an observer over the top as well. The Colossus only takes a chip of hull damage. The shield stripped away. But Showtime on point right now. And Clem unable to find a weakness. The wall holds. Blunks to the side. Loses a stalker, but gets the mine. Pulls the charge lots back before they can get too far forward. Extended thermal lance is still not done without it. Very he wouldn't actually try to cross the bridge. Clem, you shall not. Okay. All right. Thought he might try it. Clem still has the supply. He's still pumping out units. He still has a good economy. Showtime is just using his units so well. And kind of, that's what Force Field on its best day is supposed to do. It's supposed to essentially create terrain that favors you. In practice, Terrans really put the eye in terrain, but... Or the other way around. Either way, but... Vikings overhead. 2 Colossi, extended thermal lances completed. +2. Ground weapons completed for Showtime. Very important in this fight. Every Colossus swipe gonna hurt extra. Oh, 3 of them! And Blunks forward. The charge lot's off to the right flank. Well executed timing. Potential for force field. He's not quite... He tries to lock him into the bridge. It was too juicy of an opportunity not to take, but unfortunately comes up a little short. 3 more racks on the way. Clem leaning into that ground production. Does he have 2 starports? Just 1. He's going for ship weapons. He has 8 Vikings. Still a very tenuous game. That's 1 mediocre fight away from either side, potentially just getting rolled. The Vikings overhead. +3 ground weapons, +1 armor. There's the second starport. Another robo on the way as well, as both sides scale up the production to match the huge economies that they have now in the mid-game. We're looking at near 3,000 to 4,000 minerals a minute, nearly 1,000 gas a minute. You can produce a whole lot there. Like another Nexus for Showtime, going for base number 6. Clem has 4, going on 5. Ground weapons level 3 about to complete. Showtime is maxed out. It's time to show Clem what you got. Guardian shield popped. He's going to try to take advantage. Has a 12-second upgrade window, and he's going to try to use every bit of it. Knocking out the Vikings. Colossi sidestepping as the Stalkers continuing to play zone defense. Clem finishes 2-2. The Warp Prism is knocked out mid-warp, and suddenly the reinforcements are no longer coming through. Unfortunately, that Warp Prism a little bit too close to the Viking fleet. Gets knocked out, and with it, any chance of Showtime carving his way through Clem here. +3 infantry weapons begins about immediately. We got more gates in production. Showtime with a huge army knocking on the door of Clem here once again. Knocking out some of the depots. A bunker is holding. EMPs, ghosts, now in dangerous numbers. But who are you going to call, Showtime? I know you're old enough that you know what a phone is. And direct hit! Disruptors are the Ghostbusters! Takes out a wide array of them. Some Marines as well. The Vikings, still a danger to the Colossi, but Liberators are going to be needed sooner rather than later. Vikings kiting back. Another Colossus down, and the last one bites the dust. There might be enough for one force field to lock this in. The Bio Army still trading well with the Zealots. As their knees broken, it makes it a lot harder. And he's going to try to take down the rocks. Didn't quite lock him in, but the terrain for Clem. Wow, look at the bait, Jimmy. Showtime expanding to the bottom right corner. Medevac's drained heavily of energy. Feels like both sides are tired as well. But here comes Showtime again, looking for another angle. Coming up the ramp, he didn't bother going through the rocks. Hits the Vikings and Zealots on the ground. Double barrel, pops both. And the Disruptors are easily dealt with. But in the main base, a Warp Prism survived the turret. And there's no anti-air. He's going to get a full, huge warp in him, Zealots. And the Warp Prism, one skyrocket away, is going to warp in enough units that Clem has to come back with all his reinforcements, loses 11 SCVs. It's going to create... Oh, he actually recalls the Zealots. Kind of a crazy play, but not necessarily a mistake at all. He actually gets out with most of them. How rare do we see that? Usually it's a recall as like a panic button and gets 3 Zealots out and completely wastes it. But no, Showtime extracts 8 or 9 of the Zealots. And Clem doesn't really have the army supply to move forward. In fact, he has the army supply to be pushed back. That's not enough. The bridges and the concave he could potentially have is the only thing keeping him there. Meanwhile, a single Marine grinding through, but Showtime has 81 probes right now. It's not a problem at all. Liberators on the field. More Vikings as well as Showtime keeps mixing Colossi back into the composition. But +3 infantry weapons done, +2 ship weapons completed for Clem. What a series, by the way. Disruptor shot on the bridge. Gets one. Looking for the second. Wastes a lot of time trying to pop the second, but the DPS of the Bio Army is massive. Disruptor shot around the corner. Parts the Blue Sea. Both players in a very tenuous position. Showtime's momentum has continued, though. Feels like Clem is struggling to hold his ground while Showtime pushes forward. And the Medevac's nearly out of energy. The Bio Army in autumn colors. But going around the little globule thingy in the sensor, technical term. Single Zealot in the third base. Clem at 64 SCVs, a tenuous position. He doesn't have the iron bank of orbitals that he did in the last game, at least not yet. Trying to dark on the way. Stargate as well. The rest of the tech tree will be completed. Colossi, force fields to hold the door. Loses one Colossus. I don't know if there are any disruptors nearby. He dove on the planetary and it looked safe, but the Terran army knew it had an opportunity to pounce. And actually, Showtime ends up losing a large chunk of that army. He has 13 gateways, 2 robos, about to finish a Stargate. But he did just lose map control. It came at the cost of a planetary fortress for Clem to regain it, but he now has a 30 army supply lead. And that army in the top left corner, uncontested, unscouted, and now will easily take down a Nexus and all the probes. Showtime still has high supply. It's just where... One of the best types of matches is where players... It's not so much whether or not you have enough units, it's where you put them. Because they're both moving their entire army around the field simultaneously. Back and forth. Dueling. And so far... Showtime barely holding on, but he's bounced back. 2 Colossi at a time, eviscerating some ghosts. A single Colossus will eventually be... Well, did I speak too soon? That Colossus is adding so much damage, finally taken down. Are there enough gateway units underneath? The Medevacs are nearly out of energy. The Disruptor going to be popped as well, but 2 more Colossi when they needed him most. He showed up to the fight and incinerated the Marines and Marauders, but the EMPs topples the Colossi. No! Yet again, a single Colossus! A stubbed Lego toe away from death. And Clem down to 140 supply, but so is Showtime. The Zealots running through, picks up the Marines and Marauders. And, but wait, intercepted by the Stalkers that just ran through the fight. Blinks on top of it, but the Bio Army comes back around. What a game. Wow. Showtime's holding. Blinks onto the watchtower location. Gonna fire over the top of the rocks. More Colossi. He's been so consistent about killing off the Vikings. He keeps adjusting his unit composition based on the Viking count with the robo units. And he's knocked out all the Vikings multiple times, so the Colossi is still standing tall and forcing Clem to react. The Stalkers in position. The Bio Army. The Medivacs are constantly out of energy. Clem doesn't have a fusion core. So no Caduceus. This might have been the most value Caduceus reactor could ever have. He's repairing Medivacs and Vikings with mules, which I kind of love, actually. Both players are near broke. Showtime is not quite maxed out, but he's working on +3 shields. That army, he can't heal it. Needs to go to rehab before hitting the stims again, but the Colossi are shoving in. The Vikings come down. Reinforcements stimming into the fray. The SCVs are pulled to the front line, trying to eat a hit or two out of the Colossi. The Vikings knock down one Colossus, but there's 4 more where that came from. It's almost exclusively Marauders left over on the ground. Everything thrown into this fight. I guess Clem has a small army towards the top left corner. Both players are whittled down to 130 supply. Showtime could potentially... No, it's too late to recall. The Nexi are drying up. And again, the game is going to come down to not how much is there, but what's left. Which, now that I think about it, is exactly the same thing. But it was way more dramatic the way I said it. 23 SCVs dead, but Clem's army supply... Sound like a broken record. My favorite kind, but... The Medivacs are like... Please stop stimming! The Marauders at half HP overall. He simply cannot get enough energy on the Medivacs that are draining every last point into them. Showtime! It's the economy, stupid. No offense, some offense, but... Has maintained all those bases. Maintained the worker count. Clem has not had that mass orbital. He's only got 3 orbitals. The Zealot count is massive. 28 Zealots, 4 Colossi. And it's Clem. It's on him. Right now, Showtime is staring down the barrel of a 2-0. Will he flinch? Or will he continue the course? Shields level 3. Maximum upgrades for the ground army. No obligation to go for Tempest this game, because this time around, there's no Liberators. And the Vikings have been manageable. So no Storm, no Tempest, just pure brawl on the ground. Knocks out some more Marauders. Trades out the Stalkers. The Colossi showing up from a very awkward pathing. Very lucky Clem wasn't quite in position for it. That's a planetary fortress. That's been the turning point before, for better or worse. Clem still ahead on army supply, and Showtime is maxed out. Loses a Colossus, not able to save it with the Prism. It's more important to have the Prism to bring in reinforcements quickly than to do some fancy Colossus micro. Shut up, hero. The patience. And Showtime is mining from his entire half of the map, and then some. Here we go. He's adding the cannons to backstop. He has 2,500 minerals. You don't want to... Cannons aren't so great against Mass Marauder, but anything to slow it down. Another blank in. The Bio Army hits the stims again. The Medivacs just groaning in the background. Huge EMP down the center line. Colossi toppled. Another one. Warp Prism targeted. And if he loses the Colossi, the Bioarmy very likely can clean up the Zealots. He's not out of the woods yet. In fact, he's still in the midst of the trees. Showtime dancing around. He's got the high ground, but so does Clem as they go through the Valley of Death. And who will survive it? The medevacs doing their best. The last Colossus will be taken down by the Vikings, but another wave of charge lots comes in. Clem down 30 supply, but the Colossi are still in production, scanning forward. He might be able to take out the base in the top left. Showtime still has bases to retreat to. They've so cleanly mined out their first 3 bases, and even 4. Clem is still mining. The income has been in favor of the German Protoss for the vast majority of the last 10 minutes. He's lost 4,000 more resources, but 4,000 less gas. That's actually crazy. Knocks out another Viking. The Colossi continuing to be added into the composition. Point-blank EMPs to wipe out the Zealot shields, but they have maximum armor and weapons. Zealots on top of the mules. Vikings over the top as well. Gonna knock down some more of the Colossi, and he's coming around the corner. The Zealots getting caught up. The concussive shells. Another Colossus toppled. Immortals added in. Second Colossus goes down, but Clem taps it out. Not a single G on display. Wow. Showtime with some of the most commanding Protoss versus Terran. Not even, it wasn't like this fancy blink micro that you see from Max Packs or this drunken blink micro you see from Hero. That was the wall. D. Maua. I dare not dream though. Why? Because we've had, Showtime's career has been filled with moments like this. Moments where he either wins or more likely barely loses. It looks like the strongest Protoss potentially in the world. But there are other moments, not so much. I hope we're seeing the strongest arc here for Showtime, as opposed to just another strong point. I look forward to more. And at risk of sounding like a clickbait record, possibly the best Protoss versus Terran that I've ever seen. Like, specifically, well played, in the words of Clem. Oh. Jimmy's telling me the games were in reverse order, so Clem actually said well played at the end of Game 2. Which is even crazier that he didn't GG Game 1. He's like, okay, you're actually good. I don't have time to litigate this right now. I only have time to ask you one more time to like and subscribe. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But like I said, I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you to Wardi for putting on the weekly tournaments. Make sure to check them out if you got the opportunity. And thank you for watching. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.